Dry tooling's an amazing sport. It looks cool, and a lot of the movement is just pure fun. But sometimes the gear, there's a lot that goes into it. Sure, there's a lot of crossover between ice climbing and dry tooling. I mean, you gotta use ice axes at the end of the day, but there are specific pieces of equipment that can kind of add up. You know, like comp boots and like high-end ice axes. Like they're kind of expensive.
But we're here to show you that all you really need are a few essential pieces of equipment, a pair of tools to borrow, and you're ready to go dry tooling. So some of the basic equipment would be like a helmet, a harness, rock shoes.
And I would even say, like, you can also do it in approach shoes and runners. I've done a couple of the routes in approach shoes, and generally our project routes in approach shoes. So, like, in a pinch, you could probably get by with approach shoes. Is it going to be the most comfortable? Actually, it might be more comfortable thinking about it.
I know it sounds very masochistic. Another thing would be stealing a pair of dry tooling tools.
Yeah, definitely helps to have.
I stole
couple.
yours.
Yeah.
You have a few. It's pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Are there places? There are probably places that you could rent them, honestly.
Yeah. If you could look for like a guide service that has extra tools, and generally if you have like a buddy that has more than one tool, or even in a pinch, if you just have one pair of tools, I mean, one person is climbing and one person is belaying, so you really only need one. And the only thing I'll add to this kind of list is I think it's definitely important to have ice clippers, at least just one, because they kind of make coming down a little bit easier because you have somewhere to put the ice tool. And then, of course, you got your other basic things like you need a rope, you need anchor building material, you need a belay device, and all the other things. That's pretty standard with anything climbing, so you just need that as well.
I know. Coming back to the ice clipper, I learned that the hard way the first time that we had gone. I did not have an ice clipper, and I did in fact bruise the side of my head by hitting it with the ice tool. I actually didn't even realize when it happened that I bruised myself. I was a little caught up in the try not to fall. But it was a lot of fun. I had to learn how to trust the tool, I think, was one of the biggest things, and like pulling it at the right angle and not changing the angle when you're trying to move up. That's one of those things that I think just like with time it comes, and even like the past few times that we've gone, I felt more comfortable with it, but it's a little intimidating at first.
Yeah, totally. And like the first time you went out dry tooling, you used the comp boots first. I had you, granted, they were a little bit bigger than your rock shoe, so they're a little bit like there's more room in them, but like a comp boot is like totally rigid. It's got a carbon fiber plate at the bottom, but it was definitely bigger. But you went from the comp boot to using rock shoes after.
Yeah, I think I had said the next time I was going up, I was like, I'm not wearing these. It was my first time using crampons as well, and so that definitely made things feel weird. I did not trust them. Although when I was using the rock shoes, I did notice that like there would have been nice points to have the crampons for like tiny little ledges, but I think it's definitely nice starting with rock shoes because you're already trying to learn to trust those tiny edges on the ice tool or on the dry tooling tools.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to also trust crampons at the same time. It's like you're holding on like toothpicks.
Yeah, it definitely can be overwhelming at times, especially like you just kind of feel like you are just on 4 points and you're just like really far from the wall, whereas you don't have much feeling. And it's like a weird thing with dry tooling. It's like the more time you get into it, like you almost get like senses to the picks and crampons. But I definitely know when you're going up, I was like, wait, this is the first time you've had crampons on your feet. And I'm like, hopefully if you fall off or you come off the wall, you're not flailing your feet. So I was like, I don't want you to get stabbed in the back of your calf.
That would really put a damper on the first time dry tooling. Another reason why it's probably a good idea to be starting with the rock shoes.
Exactly. And like rock shoes, they'll perform just as good.
I think it was also, I didn't have to think about my footwork as much because I already knew what footwork I needed to do.
Yeah.
Because it was, in that part, it was kind of just like rock climbing in general
and
instead of the toothpicks.
Exactly. And I think that's the cool thing about using rock shoes to start out dry tooling is that you can kind of blend the two worlds together. Like if you're an ice climber going into dry tooling, going with crampons feels natural. And even in the summertime or like spring, a lot of people just use their mountaineering boots with their ice climbing crampons. So it's that transition. But like if you're going into it in a pure summer, and you're just looking for something fun to do, I mean, dry tooling is a little bit interesting because you can do it in kind of inclement weather. So you don't have to have the perfect weather conditions, but just being able to have like that comfort of your rock shoes and just having that little bit of extra sensitivity that you get, and just it's kind of a cool experience just to use your rock shoes with ice axes. It just kind of like makes that transition into dry tooling a little bit easier.
Even like with the inclement weather out on the West Coast here, it's nice. It rains a lot, and so it's not always the most fun to go rock climbing. You don't really want to go into a gym all the time, and so being able to go out when it's a bit rainy and still be able to get on the wall, it's really nice.
You really don't need too many items to get started with dry tooling, but I will say that kind of the more advanced tools you get, or like comp boots, it does become a little bit more fun. Kind of like just kind of feels cool to have this like really fancy equipment, but you really don't need a lot to start out with.
It also definitely gets more fun when you do more of it. It gets a little less stressful. You aren't thinking as much and you're just kind of doing and enjoying the experience. But don't dry tool on sport routes.